Guys, what is going on? It's Friday, and you know what that means. It's time for another episode of No Label Live, where we talk about all things labels because I don't know who you are. I don't know where you come from. But what I do know is that labels have led you where you are today. And you know what? The great thing about labels is you can peel them off. You can rewrite what they mean to you, and you can be the designer of your future. So today, my friends, our guests, we participated in an emotional intelligence training together. And boy, what a journey it has been for both of us. That's for sure. My guest today is the founder of Divine Spark, Mr. Joe Beck. Joe, great to have you.
Thanks so much for having me, man. It's been awesome to watch you continue to put out content and just do your thing ever since we went through that journey together, which was in, 2017. It's been a couple of years. It's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Right.
It has been a crazy year for sure. What's got you excited today?
What has got me excited? So the thing that I have been the most focused on and excited about is sort of my newfound passion for creating videos. And it's interesting. It's something that's really resonated with me, which is I'm sure why it's passionate about it. The first sort of transformational self-help video that I saw that had a huge impact on me was the video by this guy, Prince E. People might have heard of him, and the title of the video was "You Are Not Depressed." And it was all about how, we might have anxious or depressed thoughts, but those thoughts come and go, but we don't go with them. So, I know that I am not depression, because if depression went, then I would go too. So it's this kind of idea that we can get behind depression and anxiety. And like you said, not identify with that label. And that video really changed my life. And from there, got into different people like Jay Shetty, different podcasts, and just kind of realized how, in today's day and age, like video and podcasts, we can make this thing like you and I are doing here, and we can reach mass amounts of people. And so I've really gotten into that. And so, putting intention behind the music that I put into the video, or where I do it at, or the message and the pictures. And it's just kind of become this thing that I really enjoy doing, and I'm getting better and better at it. And so that's got me pretty fired up and passionate as of late.
And when you think about that and you feel that passion inside of you, what's the, looking further down the road, what's the ultimate purpose behind what you are trying to create with your life nowadays?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think it depends on what day you really ask me, but the ultimate purpose is to really just to get to the end of this life in this body, and to look back and say, I put my message out there. I think there's some days where I'm not, as aligned or as centered, and I'll say the ultimate purpose is to get millions of views and to make money, you know what I mean? And certainly I have those days, but I think the true authentic purpose for me, whether a video goes viral or I get 25 views, it's just like, I sung my song, I, danced my dance, and I put my message out there. And so it's really just to, look back and to know that I took my swing and went up at bat, and to, have no regrets. So I think that's the bigger purpose for me in this.
And what would you say right now in your journey, what's been like the most impactful thing that's happened to you on your journey thus far?
That's a tough question, man. So I'll give you two things, and I'll try not to get too lost in the story, but just a little bit of background for me where my journey started. Probably in like grade school, I would say like 7th, 8th grade, I got really lost in drugs and alcohol. And just growing up, I was never comfortable in my own skin, very anxious, fearful guy. And drugs and alcohol kind of made me feel like I could be myself. They were sort of like my crutch. And I got lost heavily in that world, and it led me to some pretty heavy darkness. So at age 23, I was in a jail cell. I was suicidal, and I was in a really dark space. And I received a book in jail from my mother called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And I was just so like broken and defeated that it was weird. It was like I was so broken, but for the first time, I think I was really open to like receiving like new information. And the words in that book just like pierced my soul. And for the first time, I was able to get like very, very present and to realize that I am not my thoughts and I am not, identified by what I did in the past. I can never be in this fantasy future. And for the first time, I got like really present and felt peace in a jail cell of all places. And you'll hear stories like that before, and it's hard to understand unless you've been there. But that moment for me was transformational, where I felt like maybe there's something more to this. Maybe there is a way for me to heal and to recover and to get better. And so that was a huge moment for me. Going through the 12 steps of AA was unbelievable. I truly believe that helped me to recover from my addiction, going through those steps. And then, of course, going through the emotional intelligence workshop that you and I went through. I would say those three things are like monumental when I think about my healing journey.
So when you think about that journey and the transformation, what do you think? How would you define transformation for yourself?
Whew. Some good questions, Nathan. Transformation, I would say it's definitely, in order to transform, you have to be open-minded and willing. I like to kind of think of it as being a warrior. It's like being willing to go into the darkness or go into those shadows and to kind of see those spaces of you that might not be so pretty. I refer to them as the shadows, and I think people have different names for it, but I think, the majority of people just kind of go around life like sleepwalking, doing their 9 to 5, go home and don't really give much thought about how they can grow. And I've sort of become obsessed with that, with finding my shadows, finding my weak spaces and diving into them. And sometimes they crush me and I'm stuck there for a while. But I think the bottom line is that I'm willing to go in and to shine light on them so I can ultimately transform.
And so when you get ready to shine light, because I assume that's part of what led you to the divine spark. So what does divine spark mean for you?
Awesome. Good leeway. So yeah, divine spark, it's this idea that we all have a piece of the divine in us. We all have like a spark in us. The language that you and I are used to, we all have a diamond in us. We are all worthy. And so there's certain times, just to make it so that everybody can relate to, where I think we feel that spark. And I think everybody has those moments. And it might be like when you just get done maybe going on a hike and you reach the peak and you kind of look out and you just feel it. There's really no words. You just kind of feel like alive. Or for anyone who has kids, when my 4-year-old's coming running at me and I see him, at the end of my workday and he says, Daddy, like I feel that like spark in me. I feel that aliveness. For some people, it's playing sports and just getting really present. They get in that zone. They feel alive. And so I think everybody can relate to that, to feeling that spark. And so the idea behind Divine Spark was helping people tap into that on a more regular basis, as opposed to just kind of these spur of the moments type things that some people kind of stumble on every once in a while.
So if one of the goals is to get them to tap into it on a more consistent basis, what's one tool that if I'm sitting here and I'm watching that I can start to implement to kind of create more consistency with that?
Absolutely. So people ask me that a lot as far as tools. And there was a time where I would be like, do steps 1, 2, and 3, and this is how you get to that space. And so I try not to do that as much anymore because I've talked to so many people and there's so many different ways to kind of find your spark or return to your light, or again, whatever kind of language you want to use. Mm-hmm. But for me, the two biggest ones are definitely meditation. And so for me, that looks like basically sitting with my eyes closed. Doesn't necessarily have to be in like a lotus position or anything specific. It's usually just in a chair, sitting up and just, picking something to focus on. And usually it's my breath. Sometimes I'll just sit there and I'll set a timer for 15 minutes and I'll just repeat the word love in my head. And it's this idea of, getting focused and once again, kind of getting behind your thoughts. Because your thoughts can really, make or break it. People have really dark thoughts. And when you're able to just kind of watch them go by and cultivate that awareness, It can help you tap into something deeper. It can help you tap into that spark, and it can really help you to get into a space of higher consciousness. Sometimes for people, I think that's meditation is a hard start because their thoughts are so dark that they're like, I can't imagine sitting still and just being with my thoughts.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, what someone like me would do is go to a yoga class or go for like a walk barefoot, or go lift some weights and just really be focused on what I'm doing, as opposed to going into the gym or going to a class and, trying to take a selfie or be on my phone or think about, the rest of my day, just really focusing on what's going on at hand there. I believe finding your spark happens in the present moment and doesn't happen while you're daydreaming about what you're going to be cooking for dinner later or something like that. So the idea is, a good beginner is to try to, pick a tool that works for you, but that also gets you sort of in that present moment.
Yeah. So it sounds like being in the now is very important.
Absolutely.
Because ultimately now is the only moment that we actually have.
Absolutely, man. That's can be hard to wrap your head around, but I agree with you.
How
about you? Not to flip the script, just to share with some of your listeners, what are some of your tools that feel like you get back into that space?
Yeah, so I related to the gym.
Yeah.
I can use that to get back to center. And as you were talking, one of the things I was thinking, I was thinking about, it can be kind of scary to be seeing all those thoughts that you have floating around in your head, right? So one of the things that I've found helpful is actually writing them out.
Nice.
So you take them out of your head and you give them some physical manifestation of what they are. So if they're things that you want to get rid of, write them down, crumple it up, throw it away, or burn the sheet of paper. Do something where you actually visualize them going away.
Love that, man. That's powerful.
I have a question. So you said when you were meditating, you used the word love in your example. Does that word change on a daily basis, or is it always love?
Definitely changes. And again, like I think, like to me, I almost look at the word God and love as being equal. So I think definitely depending on the person, pick a word. A lot of times I think when meditation teachers are giving out words or mantras, they almost will pick something that doesn't have any past to it for the person. So if I were to say to somebody, use the word love, and they just went through a horrible breakup, that probably wouldn't be a very good word to give them.
Yeah.
One of the first words that a meditation teacher gave me was the word one. I really had no history with that word, and it was kind of just a perfect word to just repeat in my head. And I think for her, it meant a lot. It was like for her, the word oneness, that we're all connected. She had really deep meaning to that. When I heard the word, it was just like a number, and it really was just something that I could repeat. And so definitely depends, definitely don't have to use the word love, whatever's kind of comfortable for you. But yeah,
I've had experience with that where I actually had people pick their favorite song, right?
Okay.
And what I did was I turned that into a playlist. And the same thing came up, though, because somebody chose Happy Birthday, right? And then I got people sharing experiences of how that's not necessarily a positive song for them because it relates to something else. So it's very true. It's very specific to you. And I think for like the example that you gave, that somebody gave you the word, is to actually think and say, okay, this person gave me this word with the intention that it would mean something. It doesn't, but I have the opportunity to choose something that does mean something to me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. Yeah, all the way. It's very interesting. I got into, a little bit of chanting and Sanskrit and chanting some of these Om Madme Padme things. And at first when I was doing it, I could feel the effect of it, but I had no idea what it meant. And then when I looked up what the words meant, it totally like changed my experience. So it's exactly related to what we're talking about. It's interesting how once we make it mean something, it can definitely change the results.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to connect to the people watching, and what I think about is I want you to think about a person. Imagine a person who's sitting there and they've lost their spark. That they've lost what causes the fire that's within them to burn deeply and powerfully. What advice do you have for that person?
Yeah, so when I meet someone like that, I try my best to remember what it was like for me at that point. And so I think the number one thing that you can do for people when they're in that space, first and foremost, is not necessarily jump right into a solution or tips. I think the most important thing you can do is really just feel them where they're at. And if you can relate, that's like huge for somebody. Just to say, you know what, I'm in a pretty happy space today, but I was like suicidal and in a jail cell at one point, completely hopeless. And so like, I'm here with you, like in this space, and just kind of like, if they're open to a hug or just looking them in the eyes or just really being present. Because when you're in a space like that, typically the person feels like they're like an alien. They feel like they're alone. They feel different. They feel very separated and isolated. So just to hear that somebody is there with you and they sort of get you and they're there in your space and they can feel your presence, it can be very powerful. And from there, like I said, I'll typically move into maybe just some sort of like awareness or, like you said, gratitude or writing or something very basic. But I think a starting space for anyone that's, it runs into somebody like that, just to kind of have them feel like they're not alone and you're with them and you're giving them attention can make all the difference.
So you are not alone. You matter, and you are here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that no matter who we are, we do all have our dark places that we've been, our adversities. And I think that they were given to us for a very specific reason.
I love that.
So that we can connect with the people that are in front of us at any given time. I've got a couple more questions.
All right.
Interview is flying by, my man, and it's full of good stuff.
Loving it.
So I got another visualization for you.
Do it.
I want you to go ahead and close your eyes, and I want you to imagine it's your last day on this earth. And there are two people that are meeting each other. One is you yourself in the present moment. So however old you are at your last day. And then the second person is going to be your 5-year-old self. What piece of advice would you want your 5-year-old self to give yourself on your last day? What would you want that younger version of you to tell yourself in that present moment?
I love that. Yeah, if I could say something to my 5-year-old self, it would be to keep on having fun and to keep on playing and to just be my own unique me. And just to elaborate a little bit, a big part of my transformation has been getting back in touch with that 5-year-old boy. And that looks like, when I'm driving or when I'm walking and I see a tree to climb, I'm going to go climb it despite what some people might think, if they think that's weird or like, what's this full grown man doing? When I look back at pictures of my 5-year-old self, I could see the freedom and the just no filter, not caring what other people think. And I lost that somewhere along the way. And so if I could go back and tell him that, I would just keep being yourself and to just keep having fun and to play and to not take everything so serious.
Man, yeah, I think that. So I've only asked that a couple of times, but coming back to at some point in life, we all get super, super serious.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is exactly how to say it, but this is how I'm feeling right now. We lose the smile. We lose like that freedom to just use our energy in whatever way we're feeling in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
If we knew
Yeah,
how to drive back to that, I think it would be a different world that we live in today.
yeah, I so agree, man. It's I think the world that we live in makes it challenging can make it challenging, to have that balance. And like you said, I think that's a part of why we all fade away from that, is because, we go into an education system or a corporate job or whatever it might be that's very serious, or that's very judgmental, or whatever it looks like. And it can be easy to lose it. A role model of mine is actually my father. And for whatever reason, he's just one of those guys that never lost it, or at least it feels that way, where he can go to work and he's got a pretty solid job and makes decent money. And then he comes home and he's just like a goofball, man. He dances and he's just like always messing around with my 4-year-old. And he's just a good time. And so it's a good role model to have.
That's awesome, man. It's always good to have models in your life that you can actually see that happening.
Yeah.
And you can mirror that behavior. Where can people connect with you?
So the best way to find me is the website. My website has all of the links on it to my social media. So it's divine-spark.com. So again, divine-spark.com. And then we're at facebook.com//divinespark8. And then same thing on YouTube, youtube.com/divinespark. So those are the best ways to find me. Right now I'm putting out 3 YouTube videos a week. So it's Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday morning. And so you can catch those on YouTube. And then also, if you want to be updated, you can go to our website and subscribe to our email list, and, send out email once a week to kind of let you know what we're up to.
And we'll go ahead and drop all that in the show notes so everybody can get there. And the final question is, what does no label defines me mean to you?
Love it. And I feel like I could go quite deep with this, so I hope I don't get lost. That means a lot to me, man. But yeah, ultimately it's hard to elaborate on it any further, but it's just that I think it's really easy to get caught up in labels, exactly like you said. So a lot of people, I guess staying specific to me, I can get caught up in the label that I'm an addict. And some people let that ruin their whole lives. Oh, he's an addict. He can't get a job. He's got a background, this and that, or something as simple as you're skinny, or your skin's pale, you have reddish hair. And it's really easy to let those things hold you back. So realizing that you are not those labels, that the depth of you is way past any of that crap. And just remembering, that ultimately my belief is that we are all, like I said, we're all diamonds, we're all spirits, whatever you want to call it. We are that awareness. When these bodies fade away, we still go somewhere else. And of course, that's my own personal belief. But I believe that we're much more than these bodies, and we're much more than the labels that we throw around. So if we can really look past that and see the beauty in each person, see the beauty in their diamond, this world would be a much different place. I always say it's amazing how when you walk through the room, I have a 10-month-old, and whenever I take the 10-month-old out, everyone stops and is at this baby. Like the eyes are all on the baby. You know what I mean? Everybody can see the diamond. They can look past that label in a baby. It's unbelievable. But they can't do it in another adult or in a flower or in, other things. It's just for whatever reason, we haven't lost that with babies or with infants. But I think if we could take that and apply it to other people and things, we'd be in a much different world.
Man, that's super powerful. I want to acknowledge you for coming on today and sharing and being vulnerable and open with everything you talked about today. And is there anything, as we're coming to a close here, is there anything you would like to leave the audience with before we close out today?
Just kind of touch a little more on something you said as far as we all have these specific challenges, and maybe we have those certain challenges for a reason. So I just want to remind, the audience that whatever you're going through, whatever challenges are there, try to look at them as a blessing. They might be preparing you to help massive amounts of people. They might be preparing you to get through something else later in your life, and to be open to seeing the gifts in the struggle and in the challenge.
Man, so if you guys found anything here that you can relate to, or somebody that can relate to anything we shared here today, make sure and share this out so it can reach as many people as possible. And remember, if you're watching this, you're up to big things. And when you're up to big things, you must be patient, you must be diligent, and you must never, never quit. Because no label defines you. Your label should always empower you. And with that, you guys can catch us next Friday with another episode of No Label Live.